Welcome to the Finance Lecture. What if Infosys's consulting strategy is not to advise the enterprise, but to occupy the one narrow choke point where boardroom fear becomes budget, budget becomes transformation, and transformation becomes a multi-year dependency nobody can easily unwind? That is the machine, not digital transformation, not AI-first consulting, not cloud modernization. Those are the labels. Useful labels? Sure. But labels are what firms use when they need the market to understand something simple enough to buy. The actual answer is stranger. Infosys is trying to become the translation layer between executive anxiety and operational reality. It does not need to beat McKinsey at pure strategy. It does not need to beat Accenture at boardroom theater. It does not need to beat Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, Anthropic, or AWS at model infrastructure. It needs to sit between all of them in the client's broken enterprise stack. That is where the margin is. That is where the lock-in is. That is where the real consulting strategy lives. But to understand what Infosys is actually doing in 2026, and what makes the bet either brilliant or catastrophic, you need to understand the full ontology of the organization, the history, the corporate architecture, the subsidiary structure, the vertical economics, the service line mechanics, the cost basis, the platform stack, the partnership matrix, the competitive landscape, the labor pyramid, and the specific way each of these layers interacts with every other layer to produce a single, coherent commercial machine. That is what this document is going to teach you. So you can read any Infosys announcement, any quarterly call transcript, any partnership press release, any analyst report, and instantly see the move underneath the move. You cannot understand Infosys's consulting strategy in 2026 without understanding why the company was built in the first place. Because the original DNA, the structural assumptions baked in by the founders in 1981, still shapes every commercial decision the firm makes today, even when the public language has moved on to AI first and Topaz Fabric. Infosys was founded on July 2, 1981 in Pune, India by 7 engineers. N.R. Narayana Murthy was the lead founder. The other 6 were Nandan Nilekani, S. Gopalakrishnan, known as Chris, S.D. Shibalal, K. Dinesh, N.S. Raghavan, and Ashok Arora. The initial capital was 10,000 rupees, roughly $250 at the time, borrowed by Murthy from his wife, Sudha Murthy. The name Infosys was chosen to denote information systems, signaling a systems-oriented services model rather than what was then derisively called body shopping, the practice of placing low-cost Indian programmers on site at Western client sites for hourly billing. The founding context is important. In the early 1980s, India operated under the License Raj, a regulatory regime that made importing computers and operating internationally extraordinarily difficult. Infosys had to wait nearly a year just to import its first computer. The founders also had to fight against the cultural assumption that Indian firms could not deliver high-quality software services to international clients. The first major client, Databasics Corporation in New York, required on-site work in the early years because domestic infrastructure in India was inadequate. Here is the foundational insight. Murthy did not invent labor arbitrage. What he invented, or more precisely what he industrialized, was something more durable, called the Global Delivery Model, or GDM. The GDM was based on collaborative distributed software development principles. Work was decomposed into pieces that could be done partly onshore at the client site, partly offshore in India, and integrated through process discipline rather than geographic collocation. The model assumed 24-hour workdays, in which work would pass from one time zone to another, with quality controlled through documented processes rather than supervisory presence. This is the architecture that became the backbone of the entire Indian IT services industry. TCS, Wipro, Cognizant, HCL, Tech Mahindra, every major Indian IT firm now uses some variant of the GDM. But Infosys was the firm that codified it, exported it, and demonstrated that it could produce both high quality and high margins simultaneously. The company's institutional milestones layered specific capabilities onto this foundation. In 1983, Infosys won its first onshore Indian client, Miko, in Bangalore. In 1987, it opened its first international office in the United States. In 1993, it went public on Indian stock exchanges. The IPO initially struggled, but eventually built investor confidence. In 1995, the firm set up development centers across multiple Indian cities, deepening the offshore footprint. In 1996, it opened its first European office in Milton Keynes, UK. In 1999, Infosys became the first Indian company to list on the NASDAQ, an institutional signaling event that did more for Indian IT credibility globally than any single marketing campaign could have done. Also, in 1999, it launched Finacle as a core banking software suite, the firm's first major product IP, distinct from pure services. In 2002, Infosys consolidated its other banking software products, including Bankaway and Payaway, under the Finacle brand. By the early 2000s, the firm had survived the Y2K boom and bust cycle, which had been an enormous catalyst for Indian IT firms. Y2K remediation work required armies of programmers willing to work cheaply on tedious legacy code, and Indian IT firms had exactly that resource pool. When Y2K ended, many feared the industry would collapse. Instead, Infosys and its peers used the relationships and credentials they had built during Y2K to move into broader enterprise application work. The 2000s were a decade of vertical and geographic expansion. The 2010s were a decade of digital transition under multiple CEOs, including Vishal Sikka from 2014 to 2017, who pushed automation and intellectual property aggressively, sometimes too aggressively for the founder's taste, leading to his eventual exit, and then Salil Parekh from January 2018 onward. Parekh's biography is worth understanding because it explains the current strategic posture. He spent 25 years at Capgemini, ultimately serving on the group executive board, where he oversaw application services across North America, the UK, and Asia, cloud infrastructure services, and the Sogeti Technology and Engineering Services division. Before Capgemini, he was a partner at Ernst & Young's consultancy practice, which was acquired by Capgemini. He holds a Bachelor of Technology in Aeronautical Engineering from IIT Bombay and Master of Engineering degrees in Computer Science and Mechanical Engineering from Cornell. He is widely credited with scaling Capgemini's Indian operations during his Ernst & Young years. The Parekh appointment was not a coincidence. The board chose a CEO whose entire career had been spent inside European consulting and Western IT services firms, not inside Infosys itself. The implicit signal was that Infosys needed to learn how to compete at the consulting tier of the market, not just the execution tier. That signal, made in 2018, is exactly what we are now seeing executed at scale in 2026. So, look, the company is 45 years old. It has navigated the mainframe to client-server transition, the client-server to internet transition, the internet to cloud transition, the waterfall to agile transition, and now the pre-AI to AI transition. Each of those transitions required the firm to retrain hundreds of thousands of people, restructure its delivery model, and reimagine its commercial framework. The institutional muscle for technology transition is the most underappreciated asset on Infosys's balance sheet. It does not show up as goodwill, it does not show up as property, plant, and equipment, but it is the reason the company can credibly tell a Fortune 500 client that it has done this before and will do it again. Now we get into the actual organizational ontology. Infosys Limited is the parent. Underneath it sit a constellation of wholly owned subsidiaries, each with distinct commercial purposes. Understanding this matrix is critical because the public conversation often conflates Infosys with the entire services business, but the real architecture is more layered. EdgeVerve Systems Limited is the product company. EdgeVerve was created in 2014 as a wholly owned subsidiary of Infosys, and it houses the firm's software products business. Finacle, the core banking software suite, originally launched in 1999, was merged into EdgeVerve in 2015. Under EdgeVerve, Finacle became a cloud-based platform with modules for core banking, online banking, mobile banking, customer data hub, alerts, customer relationship management, payments, trade finance, retail loan origination, and digital engagement. The Finacle platform is deployed at hundreds of banks across more than 100 countries. In recent deployments, for example with Bank CTBC Indonesia and Uniting Financial Services in Australia, the platform is being delivered as software as a service on AWS cloud infrastructure, with the Finacle Australian reference bank model providing pre-configured products, processes, interfaces, and compliance rules to enable faster implementation. EdgeVerve also owns AssistEdge, a robotic process automation platform, and other product IP. Infosys BPM Limited is the business process management subsidiary. It provides outsourcing services for business processes such as finance and accounting, procurement, customer service, and human resources. It serves clients across industries with end-to-end operational outsourcing. Infosys. Consulting is the management consulting arm. Its full corporate name is Infosys Consulting, and it operates through a complex holding structure including Infosys Consulting, Holding AG, formerly Lodestone, and Holding AG, acquired in 2012, Infosys Consulting AG, and various country entities. This subsidiary is the institutional vehicle through which Infosys competes against firms like Accenture, Deloitte, Capgemini Consulting, McKinsey Digital, and the consulting arms of the Big Four. Infosys. Public Services, Inc. serves U.S. public sector clients, which is a meaningful market segment given the federal government's massive IT modernization budget and the strict procurement rules that require dedicated entities for federal work. Infosys. Nova Holdings, LLC, is the U.S.-based acquisition vehicle. Most US-based Infosys acquisitions flow through Infosys Nova. For example, the March 2026 agreement to acquire Optimum Achieve Holdings, a healthcare digital transformation and consulting company, was executed through Infosys Nova. Panaya Inc. is the Delaware Incorporated subsidiary acquired in 2015. Panaya provides automation technology for large-scale enterprise software management. It is a SaaS company that offers impact analysis for configuration changes and remediation proposals for upgrade problems, particularly valuable for SAP, Oracle, and Salesforce enterprise customers who need to manage major version migrations without breaking integrations. WongDoody is the creative and brand experience subsidiary acquired in May 2018. It provides advertising and creative services and is used to layer brand building capability onto consulting engagements. Brilliant Basics. Holding Limited, acquired in September 2017, is a London-based digital design studio. Fluido Oy, acquired in October 2018, is a Salesforce specialist firm based in Finland. Kaleidoscope Innovation, acquired in 2020, is a US-based product development and engineering services firm focused on medical devices, consumer products, and industrial products. Stater NV, acquired in 2019, is a European mortgage administration platform. McCamish Systems, acquired in 2009, is a US-based insurance and financial services BPO operation. Intech, acquired in 2024, is a Germany-based engineering R&D services provider focused on the automotive industry. Important context for Infosys' manufacturing vertical strategy, particularly given the pressure on European automotive in 2025 and 2026. The Missing Link, acquired in 2025, is an Australia-based cybersecurity services provider. Versant Group, also acquired in 2025, is an Australia-based cloud services and consulting firm, though as of recent disclosures, regulatory approval was still pending and the acquisition was not yet contributing to financial results. Optimum. Achieve. Holdings, definitive agreement signed. March 25th, 2026, is the latest acquisition, a healthcare digital transformation and consulting company being added to deepen Infosys' life sciences and healthcare capability. Now, consider the product and platform portfolio under the Infosys parent brand, Infosys. Topaz is the umbrella brand for the AI-first services, solutions, and platform suite launched in 2023. Topaz encompasses more than 12,000 AI assets, more than 10 AI platforms, and more than 150 pre-trained AI models. Infosys. Topaz. Fabric is the core platform layer underneath Topaz. It was formally launched on November 3rd, 2025. Topaz Fabric is described as a purpose-built agentic services suite, a multi-layer AI fabric that unifies infrastructure, models, data, applications, and workflows into a composable, agent-ready ecosystem. Topaz Fabric is model-agnostic by design, capable of orchestrating across OpenAI's Codex, Anthropic's Claude, Cognition's Devon, and other model families simultaneously. It provides nearly 600 purpose-built agents and supports protocols, including Model Context Protocol, MCP, and Agent-to-Agent A2A. Infosys Cobalt is the cloud transformation platform launched in 2020. Cobalt is a set of services, solutions, and platforms for Cloud Journey, including more than 35,000 cloud assets, more than 300 industry blueprints, and a structured framework for migrating to and operating on AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud Platform, and private cloud environments. Infosys Live Enterprise Suite is the integrated enterprise transformation platform that combines AI, analytics, automation, and cloud capabilities for clients undergoing comprehensive operating model redesigns. Infosys Cortex is the customer engagement platform, providing AI-powered customer experience management for contact centers and front office operations. Infosys. Meridian is the workplace platform, focused on hybrid work, employee experience, and workforce productivity tools. Infosys. Equinox is the digital commerce platform used for e-commerce and digital storefront capabilities, particularly relevant for the retail vertical. Infosys Helix is the healthcare platform used for life sciences, payer, and provider clients. Infosys. Wingspan is the talent transformation platform used for reskilling, upskilling, and continuous learning programs both internally at Infosys and at client organizations. Infosys Polycloud is the multi-cloud management platform designed to address the reality that most enterprises now operate across multiple cloud providers and need orchestration capabilities that span them. Infosys. Nia is the earlier generation AI platform, predecessor to the Topaz family, still in production at many clients. Infosys Knowledge Institute is the research and thought leadership arm producing white papers, surveys, and industry research that the consulting practice uses to seed boardroom conversations. Infosys. Springboard is the digital learning platform, providing free skill development resources to communities and acting as a talent pipeline for the firm's own hiring needs. Infosys. Innovation Network, IIN, is the partner ecosystem program connecting Infosys clients with startups, research labs, and emerging technology providers. Look at that list. Read it twice. Because here's the thing. Most analysts treat this as a sprawling marketing inventory. It is not. It is an interlocking platform stack. Topaz handles the AI layer. Cobalt handles the cloud layer. Finacle handles core banking. Equinox handles digital commerce. Cortex handles customer engagement. Helix handles healthcare. Meridian handles the workplace. Wingspan handles talent. Polycloud handles multi-cloud orchestration. Each platform is positioned at a different layer of the enterprise stack, and each platform creates a different anchor for long-duration services engagement. The architectural insight. Every platform is a wedge. Once a client deploys Finacle for core banking, the Finacle relationship pulls services revenue around configuration, customization, integration, and managed services for years afterward. Once a client deploys Topaz Fabric for AI orchestration, the Topaz relationship pulls services revenue around agent development, governance, and modernization for years afterward. The products are not the revenue engine. The products are the gravity wells that pull services revenue into orbit. That is the corporate architecture. Now we get into the financial mechanics, because this is where the consulting strategy either succeeds or fails. Every claim Infosys makes about its market positioning has to survive contact with the income statement. The headline numbers for FY 2026 are these: revenue of $20.158 billion, constant currency revenue growth of 3.1%, reported revenue growth in Indian rupees terms of 9.6%, net profit of 29,440 crore rupees, an increase of 10.2% year on year. Reported IFRS operating margin of 20.3%, adjusted operating margin of 21%, basic EPS in dollar terms of 0.81, up 5.6% year on year. EPS in rupee terms of 71.58, up 11% year on year. Free cash flow of $3.733 billion, conversion of 112.6% of net profit. Total contract value of large deal wins at $14.9 billion, a 28% increase over the prior year, with net new at 55%. But the headline numbers do not tell you what is actually happening inside the business. For that, you need to decompose the income statement. Cost of sales for FY 2026 was $14.079 billion against revenue of $20.158 billion. That yields gross profit of $6.079 billion, or a gross margin of approximately 30.15%. By comparison, FY 2025 gross profit was $5.872 billion on revenue of $19.277 billion, a gross margin of 30.46%. So, gross margin compressed by about 30 basis points year on year. That compression reflects the pricing pressure on traditional services, even as AI-led services grow. Selling and marketing expenses for FY 2026 were $1.025 billion, up 14.1% year on year from $898 million. Administrative expenses were $969 million, up 7.3% year on year from $903 million. Total operating expenses thus came to $1.994 billion. Operating profit for FY 2026 was therefore approximately $4.085 billion on revenue of $20.158 billion, yielding a reported IFRS operating margin of 20.3%. The 14% jump in selling and marketing spending while overall revenue grew only 4.6%. In reported terms is the most important single signal in the income statement. Infosys is spending aggressively on commercial capability. That is a deliberate strategic choice. The firm is investing in its ability to land larger deals, win competitive consulting engagements, and capture market share in AI-led transformations. The fact that operating margins remained stable at 21%, adjusted, while sales investment grew 14%, means the delivery engine is becoming more efficient at the same rate the commercial engine is becoming more expensive. Employee benefit expenses for FY 2026 were 95,094 crore rupees, or approximately $11.4 billion. That represents roughly 56.6% of revenue. This is the fundamental cost equation of the business. A services firm where employee costs consume 56 cents of every revenue dollar is structurally vulnerable to any technology that compresses the value of labor hours. The entire AI consulting strategy is, in part, a hedge against this vulnerability. Infosys is trying to reshape its own labor cost ratio before the market forces the reshaping. Consultancy and professional charges, a line item that captures third-party consulting fees and subcontractor costs, surged to 1,846 crore rupees in FY 2026, up from 1,245 crore in FY 2025. That is a 48% increase. This tells you something specific. Infosys is buying external expertise, likely including specialized AI talent, boutique consulting capabilities, and high-end technical hires to accelerate its own transformation. The firm is willing to absorb higher subcontracting costs to acquire capabilities faster than it could grow them organically. Depreciation and amortization was 2,394 crore rupees, slightly lower than the 2,619 crore in FY 2025, reflecting some intangibles having been amortized down. Finance cost was 207 crore. Other income, net, including interest on income tax refunds and treasury income, was 4,322 crore, up from 3,600 crore the prior year. Free cash flow of $3.733 billion at a conversion rate of 112.6% of net profit is exceptional. It means that Infosys is converting accounting profit into actual cash at a faster rate than the profit itself, a sign of healthy working capital management, strong receivables collection, and disciplined capital expenditure. Days sales outstanding stood at around 70 at the end of fiscal year 2026, which is a healthy receivables cycle for a services firm of this scale. Consolidated cash and investments totaled approximately $4.5 billion at fiscal year end. Capital allocation is also worth understanding. The board proposed a final dividend of 25 rupees per share for FY 2026, which, along with the interim dividend of 23 rupees and a recently concluded share buyback, totaled over 37,500 crore rupees returned to shareholders for the year, approximately $4.4 billion. The buyback program, announced separately, was for 18,000 crore rupees at 1,800 rupees per share, pending shareholder approval at the time of the most recent earnings call. This is a company aggressively returning capital to shareholders, which is consistent with a mature business managing for shareholder yield rather than reinvesting heavily into greenfield growth. Return on equity has been above 30% in recent years, driven both by the high cash conversion and by the aggressive capital return policy that reduces the equity base. Now look at the vertical segmentation more carefully. For Q4 FY 2026, financial services, 28% of revenue at 12.976 billion rupees. Segment profit of 3.410 billion rupees. Segment margin approximately 26.3%. Year-on-year segment growth in constant currency, 5%. For full year FY 2026, financial services revenue was 49.908 billion rupees against 45.175 billion in FY 2025. A year-on-year growth of about 10.5% in INR terms. Full-year segment profit was 12.678 billion rupees against 11.099 billion the prior year. Note that financial services includes the Finacle product business, plus the financial services and insurance services business, aggregated because of similar economic characteristics. Manufacturing, 15.9% of revenue at 7.358 billion rupees in Q4. Segment profit of 1.541 billion rupees. Segment margin approximately 20.9%. This is meaningfully lower than financial services, reflecting the price pressure in automotive and industrial Europe. For full year, manufacturing revenue was 29.078 billion rupees against 25.207 billion in FY 2025, 15.4% growth in Indian rupees terms. The full year segment profit of 6.444 billion rupees against 4.856 billion prior year is a margin expansion of about 200 basis points despite the soft macro, a sign that the Intech acquisition is contributing margin improvement to the segment. Energy, utilities, resources, and services, 13.2% of revenue at 6.114 billion rupees in Q4. Segment profit, 1.548 billion rupees. Segment margin approximately 25.3%. Full year revenue, 23.818 billion against 21.710 billion prior year. Retail, 12.8% of revenue at 5.958 billion rupees in Q4. Segment profit, 1.811 billion rupees. Segment margin approximately 30.4%, the highest segment profit margin in the company. Retail clients tend to buy outcome-linked deals with less labor-intensive delivery patterns. Full year revenue, 23.077 billion against 22.059 billion prior year. Communication, 12.4% of revenue at 5.752 billion rupees in Q4. Full year revenue, 21.765 billion against 19.108 billion prior year. a 13.9% growth rate in Indian rupees terms, the fastest growth among large segments. This is where the Anthropic Center of Excellence is being deployed first. High tech. 7.7% of revenue at 3.558 billion rupees in Q4. Life sciences. 7.3% of revenue at 3.393 billion rupees in Q4. Full year revenue, 12.267 billion. The optimum. Achieve acquisition is intended to deepen this vertical specifically. All other segments includes India, Japan, China, Infosys Public Services, and Identified Public Services Enterprises, approximately 2.8% of revenue. Geographic segmentation for Q4 FY 2026. North America, 55.7% of revenue. Year-on-year constant currency growth, 4.1%. North America has been Infosys's dominant market for decades, and the share has been gradually declining, not because North America is shrinking, but because Europe is growing faster. Europe, 32.6% of revenue. Year-on-year constant currency growth, 11.4%. Europe has been the standout growth geography, partly driven by the Intech acquisition contribution to German manufacturing exposure, and partly by broader European demand for cost optimization engagements as the European macro environment has been weak. Rest of the world, 9.1% of revenue. Year-on-year growth, 9.3% reported. India, 2.6% of revenue. Negative 5.2% year-on-year, reflecting both weakness in domestic Indian IT spending and a strategic deprioritization of low-margin domestic deals. Client concentration data is also revealing. As of the end of fiscal year 2026, Infosys had 1,965 active clients, having added 111 new clients in Q4 alone. Top 5 clients contributed 12.6% of revenue, down from 12.8% sequentially and 13.1% a year ago. Top 10 clients contributed 20.2%. Top 25 clients contributed 34.5%. The trend of declining concentration at the top is healthy. It means the firm is diversifying its revenue base rather than becoming dependent on a small number of mega clients. Number of $50 million plus clients increased by 3 during fiscal year 2026. Number of $100 million plus clients also increased by 3. Number of $400 million plus clients increased by 2. These are not consulting scale relationships. These are institutional dependency scale relationships. When a client crosses $400 million in annual spending with a single vendor, that vendor has effectively become part of the client's operating system. Employee metrics at the end of Q4 FY 2026. Total employees, 328,594. Note, this was down approximately 8,000 sequentially from 337,034 at the end of Q3, but up approximately 5,000 year-on-year from 323,578. Software professionals, 310,887. Sales and support, 17,707. Voluntary attrition, last 12 months, IT services, 12.6%, down from 14.1% a year ago. Falling attrition is good for delivery continuity, but also reflects a softer external job market. Percentage of women. Employees, 39.5%. On-site mix, 22.8%, down from 23.1% in Q3, reflecting continued offshoring of work and automation of on-site tasks. Utilization, excluding trainees, 83% in Q4, 84.4% for the full year. Utilization, including trainees, 81.1% for FY 2026, reflecting investment in trainees as future capacity. Fresher hires in FY 2026, more than 20,000, expected to hire similar numbers in fiscal year 2027. The sequential headcount decline of 8,000 in quarter 4 is critically important. Infosys is not simply growing headcount to grow revenue, it is growing revenue per head. The FY 2027 guidance of 1.5 to 3.5% revenue growth, alongside stable to improving margins and flat fresher hiring, implies that the company expects AI-augmented delivery to absorb volume growth without proportional headcount expansion. That is the labor pyramid mutation in real time. Project Maximus is the formal internal name for Infosys's margin expansion program. The CFO has described it as a comprehensive margin expansion program that delivers improvements through pricing optimization, automation, operational process enhancements, and cost efficiency. Project Maximus has multiple work streams running simultaneously, and management has described margin gains of approximately 50 basis points over recent periods that are being reinvested into talent, AI capability, and sales and marketing. In Q2 FY 2026 specifically, Project Maximus delivered 30 basis points of the 20 basis point sequential margin expansion through pricing, partly offset by higher subcontracting and lower on-site utilization. Investors should think of Project Maximus as the operational machinery that allows Infosys to invest aggressively in commercial capability and AI tooling while maintaining its 20% plus margin guardrail. That is the financial anatomy. You cannot understand a services firm without understanding its service lines, because that is the actual taxonomy through which work is sold, priced, delivered, and accounted for. Most external commentary treats Infosys as a single entity selling IT services, but the internal taxonomy is far more specific. The major service line categories at Infosys are application development and maintenance, ADM, historically the largest revenue line. This is the work of building new applications and maintaining existing ones across enterprise stacks. ADM is the original GDM workhorse. Work is decomposed into modules, distributed between on-site client teams and offshore development centers, and integrated through process discipline. A DM is also the service line most exposed to AI compression, code generation tools, automated testing, AI-assisted refactoring. All of these compress the labor hours required for traditional ADM work, cloud infrastructure and cloud engineering, including migration, modernization, multi-cloud operations, and cloud-native development, anchored by the Infosys Cobalt platform. Cobalt is the brand under which Infosys aggregates more than 35,000 cloud assets and 300-plus industry blueprints. This service line has been one of the fastest growing categories for the past 5 years. Data and analytics, including data engineering, data warehousing, AI and machine learning modeling, business intelligence, and increasingly, data for AI services such as fingerprinting, synthetic data generation, and AI-ready data platform construction. Digital experience and front office services, including customer experience design, e-commerce platforms, anchored by Infosys Equinox, customer engagement, anchored by Infosys Cortex, and creative services, delivered partly through WongDoody, enterprise application services, including SAP, Oracle, Salesforce, ServiceNow, and Workday implementation, customization, and managed services. Salesforce work is partly delivered through Fluido OI, engineering and R&D services, including product engineering, embedded systems, industrial IoT, and automotive engineering, partly delivered through Intech, acquired 2024, for European automotive clients. Cybersecurity services, including identity management, threat detection, security operations center work, and compliance services, partly delivered through The Missing Link, acquired 2025, for Australian and Asia-Pacific clients. Business process management, BPM, delivered through Infosys. BPM Limited includes finance and accounting outsourcing, procurement, customer service, and HR outsourcing. Consulting services, delivered primarily through Infosys Consulting, includes business consulting, technology strategy, operating model design, and transformation advisory. Validation and quality engineering, including software testing, quality assurance, test automation, and continuous testing services. AI services, the cross-cutting service line introduced as a distinct revenue category through the AI Investor Day. AI services span all 6 value pools of the Hexagon framework. At Q3FY 2026, AI-related work accounted for 5.5% of total revenue. That implies an annualized run rate of approximately $1.1 to $1.2 billion in AI services revenue. The service line mix has shifted significantly over the past decade. Going back to early Infosys, reporting in 2003, the firm broke out revenue by service offering. Total services were 96.4%, and products were 3.6%. Within services, application development, maintenance, package implementation, infrastructure management, business process management, consulting, engineering services, and other services were each distinct categories. By the early 2020s, digital had become the dominant cross-cutting category. In Q1 FY 2023, digital accounted for 61% of overall revenues and was growing at 37.5% in constant currency. Now, in 2026, AI services is being established as the new cross-cutting category alongside digital. Pricing models matter as much as service lines. The major pricing models at Infosys are time and materials, T&M, the traditional services pricing where the client pays for hours worked at agreed rates. T&M is the most labor resale-like pricing and is the most exposed to AI compression. Fixed price. The client pays a fixed amount for a defined deliverable. Fixed price pricing transfers delivery risk to Infosys, but allows the firm to capture productivity gains from automation and AI tools. Managed services. The client pays a recurring fee for ongoing service provision at agreed service levels. Managed services contracts are typically multi-year, creating predictable revenue annuities. Outcome-based pricing. The client pays based on measurable business outcomes, revenue growth, cost reduction, customer satisfaction improvement, rather than effort or deliverable. This is the pricing model most aligned with the AI era consulting strategy because it captures value created rather than labor consumed. The pricing mix has been gradually shifting from time and materials toward fixed price and managed services. As of fiscal year 2026, fixed price contracts are estimated to be a majority of revenue, up significantly from a decade ago. The shift is strategic because it lets Infosys capture the productivity benefits of AI tools internally rather than passing them through to clients as rate reductions. This is the actual revenue plumbing. If you want to understand the AI bet at the operational level, you have to understand Topaz with technical precision. Most analysts treat Topaz as a single brand. The actual architecture is layered and specific. Layer 1, Infosys. Topaz is the umbrella brand for the entire AI offering portfolio. It includes services, solutions, platforms, and assets. The umbrella encompasses more than 12,000 AI assets, more than 10 AI platforms, and more than 150 pre-trained AI models. The Topaz brand was introduced in 2023 as the company's response to the post-ChatGPT enterprise AI demand surge. Layer 2, Infosys. Topaz Fabric is the core platform. Launched November 3rd, 2025. The Fabric is described as a purpose-built agentic services suite, a multi-layer AI fabric that unifies infrastructure, models, data, applications, and workflows into a composable, agent-ready ecosystem. The Fabric provides 5 key capabilities. Model abstraction. The Fabric is model agnostic and can integrate any AI model from any provider. It routes workloads dynamically based on use case, regulatory requirements, performance needs, and cost. This is the PolyAI architecture that distinguishes Infosys from competitors who are betting on a single model provider. Enterprise context creation through enterprise twins. The Fabric uses graph technology to build digital representations of the client's organizational structure, data flows, process architecture, and operational rhythm. Enterprise twins are the structured knowledge layer that makes generic AI models useful for the specific client's specific context. Agent orchestration. The Fabric provides the runtime environment for deploying, monitoring, and managing hundreds of AI agents simultaneously across an enterprise. It supports both human-in-the-loop and fully automated modes, governance, and trust infrastructure. The Fabric embeds compliance controls, audit trails, explainability layers, bias detection, and responsible AI guardrails into every deployment. This is the layer that makes raw model AP is usable in regulated industries. Composable integration architecture. The Fabric connects agents to enterprise systems, ERPs, CRMs, data lakes, and legacy applications without requiring wholesale replacement. It also supports embedded agents that run within third-party platforms like Claude Code, GitHub Copilot, and ServiceNow. Layer 3, Infosys Agentic AI Foundry, also called Infosys Agentic Foundry. Launched May 28th, 2025. The Foundry is the agent factory underneath Topaz Fabric. It is the developer-facing toolkit and methodology that enables enterprises to discover, shortlist, develop, deploy, monitor, and measure production-grade AI agents. The Foundry's specific technical capabilities include pre-built horizontal and vertical agents, currently more than 600 purpose-built agents across industries, 3 primary agent templates, the React agent, combining reasoning traces with action execution in a step-by-step thought tool observe refine loop, ideal for single-task operations, the multi-agent, operating on a planner executor critic paradigm with optional plan, verifier mode, supporting both fully automated and human-in-the-loop operation, and the hybrid agent, a pure Python-based template with advanced capabilities from other templates. 20 industry blueprints that codify pattern libraries for specific verticals. Evaluation frameworks using the LLM as a judge approach to assess agent performance and efficiency. Agent Ops. Capabilities for operational monitoring of deployed agents. Support for Model Context Protocol, MCP, and Agent-to-Agent, A2A protocols. Emerging industry standards for inter-agent and agent-to-tool communication. Deployment on Azure Kubernetes services for enterprise-grade scalability and reliability. Memory and interaction capabilities, including conversation. Memory and real-time chat interaction. File integration capabilities, including file uploads and tool-based file content access. Consistency and robustness checks for exported agents. Custom tool management, letting developers create, onboard, and manage Python functions as reusable agent tools. Layer 4, the AI Value Framework, also known as the Hexagon. Unveiled at the AI Investor Day on February 17, 2026, the Hexagon identifies 6 AI value pools. 1. AI strategy and engineering. Designing and implementing AI strategies, platforms, and architectures tailored to business needs. Orchestrating AI agents, proprietary platforms, and third-party tools on purpose-built infrastructure. Moving enterprises beyond experimentation to a unified, enterprise-wide AI operating model. 2. Data for AI. Preparing enterprise data, both structured and unstructured, for AI model readiness. Building AI-ready data platforms, applying AI-grade data engineering, including fingerprinting and synthetic data services, converting raw data into a trusted strategic asset. 3. Process transformation, driving business processes using agents, redesigning workflows around autonomous and semi-autonomous AI execution, customer service automation, claims processing, compliance review, procurement optimization. 4. Legacy modernization, accelerating the transition from legacy landscapes, COBOL migration, mainframe decommissioning, monolith to microservices conversion. This is where the Hertz case study lives. 3 million lines of COBOL migrated at 60% lower cost and 60% faster than traditional methods. 5. Physical AI, embedding AI into devices, IoT systems, and real-time edge intelligence, manufacturing floor optimization, predictive maintenance, supply chain sensor integration. 6. AI trust, security, governance, responsible AI implementation, audit trails, explainability, bias detection, compliance frameworks for regulated industries. The Hexagon is paired with a two-pronged commercial strategy. First, capture new demand for AI-first services across the 6 value pools. Second, augment existing services with AI to expand wallet share within current client relationships. The first prong creates net new revenue. The second prong defends existing revenue from AI-driven compression while expanding the share of spend at each existing client. The estimated total addressable market for AI services across the 6 value pools is $300 to $400 billion by 2030, according to Chairman Nandan Nilekani's presentation at the AI Investor Day. At a current AI services run rate of approximately $1.1 to $1.2 billion, Infosys is capturing less than 0.5% of the projected TAM. The growth runway, if the TAM estimate is even directionally correct, is enormous. Layer 5, the 5 runways for Topaz Fabric adoption, as described by Mohammed Rafi Tarafdar, the Topaz Fabric leader, at the AI Investor Day. The runways are operational sequences for moving an enterprise from initial AI adoption to comprehensive deployment. They include rapid experimentation runways, enterprise context building runways, where enterprise twins are constructed, agent deployment runways, governance runways, and scaling runways. That is the Topaz technical stack, from umbrella brand down to runway sequencing. Now the production case studies with the specific operational details, because these are what make the platform claims credible. Ralph Lauren, Consumer Products Retail. Infosys built a conversational and personalized AI tool that converted customer interest into a shopping experience. Result? 12% increase in revenue, 50% increase in customer engagement. This is the Equinox plus Topaz integration in action, digital commerce platform plus AI personalization. Hertz, transportation. Infosys helped migrate 3 million lines of COBOL code to a modern microservices environment using AI foundation models. Result? 60% lower cost than traditional migration approaches, 60% faster timeline. This is the legacy modernization value pool, delivering measurable economics. BP, energy. Infosys deployed 50 AI agent initiatives across trading, supply chain, sustainability, and core operations, transforming software development, knowledge automation, legacy modernization, and digital decision support. Result? 95% payment accuracy. Note the scale. 50 distinct AI agents at a single enterprise client. That is the kind of deployment density that creates operational intimacy and switching costs simultaneously. Citizens Financial Group. Banking. Infosys collaborated with Citizens to accelerate AI-driven transformation across banking operations, product development, and customer experience. The relationship was framed around an AI-first innovation hub, language that signals Infosys is becoming embedded in Citizens' strategic AI capability building, not just delivering point solutions. An unnamed technology major, Infosys deployed a continuous learning deep research agent that delivers comprehensive product insights in seconds. Result? Support resolution times reduced by up to 50%. Customer satisfaction, CSAT, scores improved by 24%. An unnamed leading service company. AI agents automated complex audit processes, including transaction sampling, document collection, and document review. Result? Enhanced financial record integrity. These are not pilot statistics. These are production case studies with measurable business outcomes, which is exactly the proof posture the firm needs in order to convert prospective AI buyers from pilot mode to production mode. The partnership velocity in the 12 months from May 2025 through April 2026 has been extraordinary. 5 major named public strategic collaborations, each with distinct architectural roles inside the overall Poly AI strategy. Partnership 1, Google Cloud, announced May 29th, 2025. Infosys launched more than 200 enterprise AI agents as part of Topaz, built on Google Cloud's Vertex AI platform. The agents span healthcare, finance, retail, telecom, manufacturing, and agriculture. Specific use cases include a monitoring agent that tracks real-time network capacity and sends proactive alerts to reduce downtime, finance agents that manage accounts payable and receivable with precision, supply chain agents that predict parts demand and dynamically adjust production schedules. Balakrishna DR, known as Bali, Executive Vice President and Global Services Head for AI and Industry Verticals at Infosys, framed this as a milestone in enterprise AI innovation. Victor Morales, VP of GSY and Consulting Partnerships at Google Cloud, confirmed the agents were designed to improve complex workflows and support multi-agent operations at scale. Partnership 2, Cognition, announced January 7, 2026. Cognition is the maker of Devon, the autonomous AI software engineer. After using Devon internally for 6 months and seeing what the company described as significant improvement across both engineering, quality, and efficiency, Infosys committed to integrating Devon into its internal engineering teams, embedding Devon within client delivery models, and enabling deployment within customer engineering environments. The targeted use cases include brownfield engineering, tech debt reduction, legacy modernization, and the creation of virtual engineers to resolve complex production and maintenance issues. Infosys's financial services practice was the first wave of joint client engagements, already deploying Devon to transform engineering delivery across banking, payments, capital markets, insurance, and wealth management. The firms are jointly developing industry-specific solutions, AI-native modernization blueprints, scalable engineering frameworks, co-innovation labs, and enablement programs. The Cognition partnership reveals the labor substitution logic inside the consulting strategy. Devon is not a co-pilot, it is an autonomous software engineer. Infosys deployed it internally first, validated the productivity gain, then turned the validated internal deployment into a client offering. That sequence, internal validation to external commercialization, is the template for how the entire AI services strategy works. Eat your own cooking. Prove the margin impact. Package the proof. Sell the package. Partnership 3, Anthropic, announced February 17, 2026, at India's AI Impact Summit in New Delhi. The collaboration integrates Anthropic's Claude models, including Claude Code, with Infosys Topaz. It launched first in telecommunications with a dedicated Anthropic Center of Excellence. The Center of Excellence is tasked with building and deploying AI agents tailored to carrier network operations, customer lifecycle management, and service delivery. The collaboration then extends to financial services, risk detection, compliance reporting, personalized customer interactions, manufacturing, AI-driven design and production optimization, and software development, code generation, testing, deployment. Anthropic simultaneously opened its first India office in Bengaluru as part of its India expansion strategy, co-locating with Infosys's headquarters for organizational proximity. Dario Amodei, CEO and co-founder of Anthropic, described the collaboration in unusually direct terms. He said there is a big gap between an AI model that works in a demo and one that works in a regulated industry, and closing that gap requires domain expertise. Infosys, he said, has exactly that kind of expertise across telecom, financial services, and manufacturing. He noted that Infosys developers are already actively using Claude Code within Infosys's exponential engineering group to accelerate their work and create AI agents for industries that demand precision, compliance, and deep domain knowledge. That quote is worth absorbing carefully. The CEO of one of the most advanced frontier model companies on Earth is publicly stating that his technology alone is insufficient for regulated enterprise deployment, and that Infosys's domain expertise is the missing piece. That is not marketing. That is an architectural admission. The model layer needs the systems integration layer. The systems integration layer needs the model layer. The firm that sits at the junction controls the value. Infosys shares surged 4.8% on the day of the Anthropic announcement, the strongest single-day gain in 2 weeks. The market understood the signal. Partnership 4, OpenAI, announced April 22, 2026. The collaboration integrates OpenAI's frontier models, including Codex, with Infosys Topaz Fabric. Initial focus areas: software engineering, legacy modernization, DevOps automation, e-commerce platforms. Salil Parekh, CEO of Infosys, framed the collaboration as establishing an operating model to unlock AI value at scale, uniting technology, talent, and transformation playbooks so clients can move decisively from pilots to performance, creating competitive advantage. The phrase pilots to performance is the recurring market diagnosis embedded in every OpenAI-related Infosys communication. The enterprise AI market is drowning in pilots. Infosys is selling the path to production. Partnership 5, AWS, announced January 2026. Strategic collaboration with Amazon Web Services to accelerate enterprise adoption of generative AI. The initiative combines Infosys Topaz with Amazon Q Developer, AWS's generative AI-powered assistant. Sectors covered include manufacturing, telecom, financial services, and consumer goods. Infosys, committed to using the combined capability across internal functions, including software development, HR, recruitment, sales, and vendor management. Supporting partnerships and ecosystem connections include NVIDIA for AI infrastructure and accelerated computing, Microsoft Azure for cloud infrastructure and the Microsoft AI ecosystem, Databricks for data, Lakehouse and AI engineering, Snowflake for data warehousing and AI-ready data platforms, ServiceNow for workflow automation with Infosys building embedded agents that run within the ServiceNow platform, GitHub with Infosys building agents that run within GitHub Copilot, SAP for enterprise application services and S/4 HANA migrations, Salesforce partly through Fluido OI for specialist delivery, Oracle for enterprise application services, Workday, Adobe, standard enterprise SaaS partnerships, Cambridge University, Columbia University, Cornell University for joint AI research on agentic technology, scaling, and trust. This academic collaboration layer matters because it signals that Infosys is participating in the frontier research conversation, not just consuming downstream productized capabilities. Infosys's own internal research centers, providing in-house frontier research capability alongside the academic partnerships. The partnership accumulation is the strategy. Infosys now has formal, named, publicly announced collaborations with OpenAI, Anthropic, Cognition, Google Cloud, and AWS, plus deep operational ties to Microsoft, NVIDIA, Databricks, Snowflake, ServiceNow, SAP, Salesforce, Oracle, and the academic research community. It is simultaneously embedded in the ecosystems of every major AI model provider and cloud infrastructure platform. That is not partnership collection for press release purposes. That is the systematic construction of the Poly-AI abstraction layer. No other Indian IT services firm has assembled this exact constellation. TCS has its own AI capabilities and crossed approximately $2.3 billion in annualized AI revenue in Q4 FY 2026, up from $1.5 billion at the start of the year. But TCS has not built the same kind of publicly visible named multi-model orchestration architecture. Wipro is executing in healthcare AI and managed services, but at a different scale and with less explicit poly-AI positioning. Cognizant is restructuring. HCL is strong in infrastructure management, but has not positioned itself as an AI orchestration platform. The relevant external comparison is Accenture. Accenture's advanced AI revenue more than doubled year on year to roughly $1.1 billion in its September to November 2025 quarter. Accenture's managed services revenue grew 10% in Q2 of its fiscal 2026. Accenture has deeper boardroom prestige, a larger consulting workforce, and a longer track record of enterprise transformation at the C-suite level. But Accenture is also a roughly $65 billion revenue company with a fundamentally different cost structure. It does not have the labor cost advantage. It does not have the offshore delivery scale. It does not have the same structural incentive to build a poly-AI orchestration layer because it already has the boardroom access. Infosys's asymmetric advantage is that it needs the orchestration layer more. And because it needs it more, it is building it faster. The first mistake is thinking Infosys is trying to become a traditional management consulting firm. It is not. Traditional consulting sells executive certainty. The partner walks into the room, sharp suit, polished deck, voice trained to sound like no one has ever surprised him. He reduces ambiguity into frameworks, market map, operating model, cost curve, transformation roadmap, steering committee, value capture. Fine, but Infosys does not have to win that game head on. Infosys's stronger position is lower in the stack, and therefore closer to the truth. The truth is that most large companies do not fail at AI because they lack ideas. They fail because their systems cannot absorb the ideas. Their data is dirty, their applications are old, their business units do not trust each other. Their compliance teams slow everything down, their cloud migration is half finished, their ERP instance has more exceptions than rules, their operating model is a fossil with a chatbot taped to it. Okay? So when a board says, we need an AI strategy, the textbook answer is that they need use cases, governance, talent, and technology. The actual answer is that they need someone to convert organizational decay into an executable work program without embarrassing the people who allowed the decay to accumulate. That is where Infosys can win. Infosys's consulting posture is not really, we will tell you what the future is. It is closer to, we will take the future your board has already been frightened into buying, then make it land inside the enterprise without blowing up the place. That sounds less glamorous. It is more valuable. The financial architecture supports the claim. A firm with 20% plus operating margins does not want to become a commodity body shop forever, but it also cannot abandon the delivery engine that created the margin. So the move is not to replace services with software. The move is to wrap services in software, wrap software in consulting, and wrap consulting in business outcomes. That is the new shape. The AI layer gives Infosys a fresh reason to enter the room. The consulting layer gives it permission to speak to the business. The delivery layer gives it the ability to stay after the strategy firms leave. That is not nothing. The vertical economics reinforce this. Look at the segment margin variance across the verticals. Financial services at 26.3%, manufacturing at 20.9%, energy at 25.3%, retail at 30.4%, communication at lower visible margins but the fastest growth. Each vertical requires a different consulting entry strategy, a different AI deployment model, and a different managed services annuity structure. Financial services has the budget but demands governance, hence the Anthropic Claude integration with regulated industry tooling. Retail has the highest margin because clients buy outcome-based deals with less labor, hence the Equinox digital commerce platform and the Ralph Lauren-style outcome stories. Communication has the growth but demands operational depth, hence the dedicated Anthropic Center of Excellence in telecom. Manufacturing has the scale but demands cost discipline, hence the Intech acquisition for German automotive engineering and the focus on AI-driven cost optimization. Each vertical has a tailored AI services entry pattern. Every enterprise AI budget begins as fear. Fear of being left behind, fear of margin compression, fear of a competitor using automation faster, fear that the CEO will sound outdated on the next earnings call, fear that the board will ask why billions were spent on cloud and the company still cannot produce clean data for a customer-level margin model. Infosys' strategy is to monetize that fear without calling it fear. The firm's public language is careful. AI first, cloud first, digital first, business value, transformation, operating model. Fine, but underneath that vocabulary is a more concrete transaction. Infosys is selling the executive team a way to convert AI uncertainty into controlled institutional motion. That is a rare product, because most vendors sell pieces. OpenAI sells frontier model capability. Anthropic sells model safety and enterprise-grade reasoning posture. Google Cloud sells infrastructure, data, and AI platforms. Microsoft sells productivity distribution. AWS sells compute gravity. Service now sells workflow. SAP sells enterprise process gravity. Snowflake sells data gravity. Databricks sells analytics and AI engineering gravity. Cognition sells autonomous software engineering. NVIDIA sells the underlying compute substrate. Infosys sells the connective tissue. The scale of the pilot problem is becoming visible in the data. At its Investor AI Day in February 2026, Infosys disclosed that it works with 90% of its top 200 clients on AI initiatives. It had 4,600 AI projects underway. Its teams had generated over 28 million lines of code using AI. It had built over 500 agents, now closer to 600, deployed across various stages of operational readiness. And yet, the CEO and chairman both spent significant portions of their presentations talking about the deployment gap, the gap between experiment and production, between pilot and performance. That gap is enormous, and the firms that control that gap will control a disproportionate share of enterprise AI economics, because the hard part is not model access. Model access is increasingly abundant. The hard part is organizational incorporation. Who approves the agent? Who monitors the agent? Who owns the failure? Who rewrites the workflow? Who retrains the employee? Who connects the agent to the ERP system? Who logs the decision? Who explains the audit trail? Who takes blame when a hallucination becomes a control failure? That is consulting now, not pretty strategy, not clever frameworks, institutional risk choreography. The public reads Infosys Topaz as an AI platform. That is too literal. Topaz is better understood as a repricing device for services. Why? Because services firms have a structural problem. If they sell hours, AI compresses the value of labor. If they sell outcomes, AI expands the value of orchestration. The difference between those two worlds is existential. So Topaz gives Infosys a way to say, we are not merely staffing your transformation. We are bringing reusable AI assets, pre-built models, agentic workflows, industry blueprints, evaluation frameworks, and partner-integrated delivery patterns. 12,000 AI assets, 600 purpose-built agents, 20 industry blueprints, 3 agent templates, 5 Topaz Fabric runways, 6 AI value pools, 500-plus agents already built, 90% of top 200 clients engaged, 28 million lines of AI-generated code, 5.5% of revenue from AI services and rising. That changes the pricing conversation. The buyer is no longer asking, how many people are you putting on this? The buyer starts asking, how fast can you convert this broken process into a measurable operating improvement? That is a much better question for Infosys. Because the old offshore model was built around labor scale, the new AI consulting model has to be built around repeatable transformation, IP, not pure software, IP, not pure labor, something in between, the services software layer. The economic implications are profound. Consider the labor pyramid. The traditional Indian IT services pyramid has many junior engineers at the base, fewer mid-level managers in the middle, even fewer senior architects above that, and a small number of partners and account leaders at the top. AI attacks the bottom of the pyramid because junior delivery tasks are most susceptible to automation. Code generation, documentation, test scripting, data extraction, workflow mapping, knowledge search, support triage, all vulnerable. But the pyramid does not simply collapse, it mutates. If Infosys can package its delivery knowledge into AI assets and agents, the low end gets automated. The middle becomes orchestration, managing the AI agents, designing the workflows, integrating with enterprise systems, handling escalations. The top becomes trust, governance, domain fluency, and deal control, selling the engagement, managing the client relationship, owning the business outcome. That is the consulting strategy. Not use AI. Absorb AI before AI absorbs the labor model. The internal deployment of Devon for 6 months before commercializing it externally is the canonical example. Infosys validated the productivity gain on its own engineering work first, then it priced the validated productivity gain into client engagements at a margin that captured value without giving away the entire delta. People will compare Infosys Consulting to Accenture, Deloitte, Capgemini, Cognizant, TCS, Wipro, IBM Consulting, and the strategy firms. That comparison is necessary but incomplete. The more interesting enemy is fragmentation. Modern enterprises are overloaded with vendors, cloud vendors, AWS, Azure, GCP, Oracle Cloud, IBM Cloud, private cloud providers, SaaS vendors, Salesforce, Workday, ServiceNow, Adobe, SAP SuccessFactors, Microsoft Dynamics, data vendors, Snowflake, Databricks, Informatica, Oracle, Teradata, cybersecurity vendors, CrowdStrike, Palo Alto Networks, Okta, Splunk, Microsoft Defender, AI vendors, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Cohere, Mistral, and 100 boutique startups. ERP vendors, SAP, Oracle, Microsoft Dynamics, Infor. Product engineering vendors, large IT firms and specialist boutiques, managed services vendors, incumbents and challengers, boutique AI firms claiming domain specialization, internal centers of excellence, shadow IT teams, running unauthorized cloud services, innovation units that do not talk to operations teams that do not trust innovation units, global capability centers, GCCs, increasingly common as enterprises set up their own captive offshore operations. The enterprise has too many tools and not enough institutional coherence. Infosys' opportunity is to become the coherence vendor. That is a very different category. The coherence vendor does not merely implement software. It decides how the organization's technology ambition becomes an operating shape. It determines what gets modernized first, what gets left alone, which systems become sources of truth, which workflows become agent-ready, which data flows get cleaned, which processes are too politically sensitive to automate, and which ones can be quietly rebuilt without starting a civil war inside the client. That is why consulting matters. Pure engineering cannot do this alone. Pure strategy cannot do this alone. Pure software cannot do this alone. You need a firm that can sit in the boardroom, understand the finance case, walk into the CIO's stack, decode the legacy estate, negotiate with procurement, calm compliance, train users, build the AI layer, manage the cloud path, and still deliver the work at industrial scale. That is the Infosys bet. Once a firm sits at this position, it becomes hard to remove. Not because of a conspiracy, because the work becomes entangled. The vendor knows the exceptions. The vendor knows which systems lie. The vendor knows which executives are serious. The vendor knows where the data breaks. The vendor knows the hidden operating rhythm of the client. That knowledge compounds. Consulting firms talk about trust. This is the rawer version. Operational intimacy. Operational intimacy is stickier than brand. The large deal dynamics reinforce this. $14.9 billion in total contract value for FY 2026, with 55% net new. That means roughly $8.2 billion was genuinely new business, not renewals. Q4 large deal TCV alone was $3.2 billion. The company's $50 million plus clients increased by 3 in fiscal year 2026. Its $100 million plus clients increased by 3. Its $400 million plus clients increased by 2. These are institutional dependency scale relationships. In financial services specifically, Infosys is now the preferred AI partner for 10 of the top 20 clients, with many initiatives moving from proof of concept to production, especially in agentic AI. The focus areas are KYC, onboarding, and portfolio management. The pipeline is strong with new opportunities in vendor consolidation, cost optimization, and simplification. In the communications vertical, Infosys built the dedicated Anthropic Center of Excellence as the first wave of its Claude deployment. Telecom is operationally complex, heavily regulated, and desperate for automation of network operations, customer lifecycle management, and service delivery. The consulting entry is through AI agent deployment. The lock-in is through operational embedding. In manufacturing, despite challenges in automotive and industrial Europe with decision-making delays and soft discretionary spending, Infosys is helping clients leverage technology across the end-to-end lifecycle from design to manufacturing to sales, particularly as companies reevaluate supply chains due to tariff uncertainty. The Intech acquisition for German automotive R&D services adds specific domain depth here. In retail, the Equinox digital commerce platform plus Topaz AI creates a packaged offering for consumer brand transformation, with Ralph Lauren as the showcase case study. In life sciences, the Optimum Achieve acquisition adds healthcare digital transformation capability, pairing with the Infosys Helix platform for an end-to-end healthcare offering. Cross-stack control is the strategy. Data plus cloud, cloud plus applications. Applications plus workflow, workflow plus AI agents plus governance, governance plus workforce adoption plus measurable business outcome. That chain is where Infosys wants to sit. At the Investor AI Day in February 2026, Chairman Nandan Nilekani framed the current AI transition as fundamentally different from and faster than any previous technology shift. He noted that AI reached 1 billion users in a couple of years compared to over 10 years for the internet. He described the deployment gap, the gap between what AI can do in a demo and what it can do inside a regulated enterprise, as the central market failure that Infosys is built to address. The Hexagon framework was unveiled as the structured response. 6 value pools, 2-pronged strategy, capture new demand for AI-first services across the 6 pools, and augment existing services with AI to expand wallet share within current client relationships. More than 30 new service offerings developed across the 6 pools, 90% of the top 200 clients engaged in AI initiatives, 4,600 AI projects underway. The market opportunity estimate of $300 to $400 billion by 2030 is aggressive but not ungrounded. It positions Infosys not as competing for a fixed pie against TCS and Accenture, but as participating in a market expansion that dwarfs the current AI services revenue of all major IT firms combined. If the estimate is even directionally correct, the current competitive landscape is irrelevant. What matters is execution velocity and institutional positioning. The emerging tension within the company's own economics is visible. AI services are growing robustly. But AI also creates pricing compression on traditional services. Code generation reduces billable hours for custom development. Test automation reduces QA staffing. Document processing reduces back-office labor. CFO Jayesh Sangrajka acknowledged this directly. Client spending is guarded, with greater focus on cost optimization engagements as against growth-led transformation programs. The company is seeing increasing momentum in AI-driven initiatives, particularly around productivity, automation, and platform-led modernization. That is the double-edged economics of the AI consulting transition. AI grows the top line while simultaneously compressing existing revenue streams. The net effect depends on whether the new AI services revenue grows faster than the compression of traditional services revenue. The FY 2027 guidance of 1.5 to 3.5% constant currency growth suggests the company believes the net effect is modestly positive, but not yet dramatically so. Project Maximus delivers the financial discipline required to navigate this transition. The program operates as multiple parallel work streams, covering pricing optimization, automation, operational process enhancements, and cost efficiency. The cumulative effect has been approximately 50 basis points of margin improvement over recent years, which has been reinvested into talent, AI, and sales and marketing capacity. Q2 FY 2026 alone saw 30 basis points of sequential margin expansion from Maximus, partly offset by higher subcontracting costs and lower on-site utilization. The on-site employee mix continues to reduce to 22.8% in Q4 FY 2026, down from 23.1% in Q3. Reflecting ongoing offshoring and automation of on-site work. The consultancy and professional charges line item growing 48% year-on-year shows the firm is buying external expertise to accelerate its own transformation. The competitive landscape for Infosys is multi-layered. Different competitors compete on different layers of the stack, and the strategic question is not who wins in the abstract. It is which layer is becoming most valuable and which competitor is best positioned for that layer. Tier 1, Strategy consulting firms: McKinsey & Company, Boston Consulting Group, Bain & Company. These firms compete with Infosys at the boardroom level on strategy advisory. They have unmatched brand prestige with C-suite buyers. They are also adding digital and AI implementation capabilities: McKinsey through Quantum Black, BCG through BCGX, Bain through Bain Vector. But they do not have the delivery scale to execute large-scale transformations themselves. They typically subcontract execution work to firms like Infosys, Accenture, or TCS. The strategic threat from this tier is at the entry point. They get to the board first and shape the engagement before Infosys can. Tier 2, Big Four consulting arms: Deloitte Consulting, EY Consulting, PwC Consulting, now Strategy, and KPMG Consulting. These firms have larger headcounts than the strategy firms, broader service portfolios, and stronger middle market presence. They compete on a mix of strategy, technology, and operational consulting. Deloitte, in particular, has built a substantial technology delivery capability and is probably Infosys's closest direct competitor in the consulting-led technology transformation space. The Big Four also have the advantage of an audit relationship at many enterprise clients, which creates a non-services foothold that can be leveraged for consulting cross-sell. Tier 3, global IT services majors: Accenture, IBM Consulting, formerly IBM Global Business Services, Capgemini. Accenture is the most direct global competitor. Roughly $65 billion in revenue, deep boardroom relationships, and massive AI investment. Accenture's advanced AI revenue surpassed $1.1 billion in its September to November 2025 quarter, already meaningfully larger than Infosys's AI services, run rate of approximately $1.1 billion annualized. IBM Consulting brings the legacy IBM relationships at large enterprises, plus the Red Hat hybrid cloud capability, plus watsonx AI tooling. Capgemini brings strong European positioning and deep manufacturing and automotive expertise, and was notably Salil Parekh's home firm for 25 years. Tier 4, Indian IT services peers: Tata Consultancy Services, TCS, Wipro, HCL Technologies, Tech Mahindra, Cognizant, technically US listed but Indian staffed. TCS is the largest by revenue at roughly $30 billion and crossed $2.3 billion in annualized AI revenue in Q4 FY 2026, up from $1.5 billion at the start of the year. TCS has been a more aggressive disclosure of AI revenue specifically, which has helped its market positioning. Wipro has retreated somewhat from broad market share competition, but remains strong in healthcare AI and managed services. HCL Technologies is strong in infrastructure management and engineering services. Cognizant has been restructuring. Tech Mahindra is strong in telecom and BPO. The Indian peers compete with Infosys on cost, delivery scale, and offshore-centric pricing models. Tier 5, Hyperscalers Services Arms: AWS Professional Services, Microsoft Industry Solutions, Google Cloud Consulting. These are growing rapidly. They have the advantage of being inside the client's cloud relationship and being able to offer first-party expertise on their own platforms. They compete with Infosys mainly on cloud and AI implementation work, less on broader transformation. The hyperscaler services arms also have an interesting dual-edged dynamic with Infosys. They are simultaneously partners, delivering joint solutions on Vertex AI, Azure, AWS, and competitors, selling their own implementation services to the same clients. Tier 6, model providers expanding into services: OpenAI's forward-deployed engineer programs, Anthropic's solutions team, Cohere's professional services. These are still small but expanding. The interesting question is whether the model providers will eventually try to capture more of the implementation margin by going direct to enterprise clients, bypassing the integrator layer. The fact that OpenAI and Anthropic have both chosen to partner deeply with Infosys rather than build large internal services teams is the most important strategic signal for Infosys's bet. The model providers themselves believe the integrator layer is structurally necessary and that they should partner with it rather than try to absorb it. Tier 7, boutique AI consulting firms. Hundreds of specialist firms, some venture-backed, some founder-led. They compete with Infosys on agility, depth on specific domains, and credibility with AI-native buyers. They do not compete on scale. Tier 8, global capability centers, GCCs. Enterprise clients are increasingly setting up their own captive offshore operations in India. GCCs offer enterprises the option to in-source rather than outsource, capturing the labor arbitrage themselves while retaining direct control. Infosys is now actively helping clients set up GCCs. This was mentioned as a pipeline category in recent earnings commentary, which means the firm is transforming a competitive threat into a service offering. Setting up a GCC requires real estate, talent acquisition, organizational design, technology infrastructure, and ongoing managed services, all of which Infosys can provide. The structural insight: The AI era is collapsing some traditional competitive tiers and elevating others. The strategy firms are descending into implementation. The hyperscalers are ascending into services. The boutiques are multiplying at the edges. The GCC trend is changing the make versus buy calculus for enterprise clients. And the model providers are positioning themselves as ecosystem hubs. Infosys's positioning play is to be the firm that can play across multiple tiers simultaneously, partnering with model providers and hyperscalers while competing with strategy firms on advisory and out-delivering everyone on scale. The most important strategic question inside Infosys is not what will AI do to clients? It is what will AI do to Infosys's own labor pyramid? The pyramid has historically been shaped by the GDM, many junior engineers, typically 2 to 3 years experience at the base, fewer mid-level managers and team leads, even fewer senior architects, principals, and consultants, a small number of partners and account leaders at the top. Pricing has been based on labor categories. A blended rate calculation in a typical T&M contract might assume 70% junior staff at lower hourly rates, 20% mid-level staff at higher rates, and 10% senior staff at the highest rates. The aggregate blended rate creates the commercial offering. AI compresses this in multiple ways simultaneously. First, code generation tools like Codex, Devon, Claude Code, and GitHub Copilot reduce the productive hours required for code production by some meaningful percentage. Estimates vary from 20 to 50% depending on the task. Second, automated testing reduces QA labor. Third, document processing and knowledge search agents reduce the labor required for requirements, analysis, and documentation. Fourth, Agent Ops reduces the labor required for production monitoring and incident response. Each of these specific tasks was historically a junior engineering responsibility. So, the bottom of the pyramid contracts. The math is straightforward. If AI tools double the productivity of a junior engineer for routine code generation, then either Infosys delivers twice as much work with the same junior headcount, good for revenue but compressing the pricing per unit of output, or it delivers the same work with half the junior headcount, good for margin but problematic for the GDM scale model. The mitigation strategy has several layers. Layer 1, capture the productivity gain internally before passing it to clients. This is what Project Maximus is partly about, improving operational efficiency, capturing the gain as margin expansion, and reinvesting in commercial capability rather than discounting prices. Layer 2, shift the pricing model from T&M to fixed price and outcome-based. Under fixed price contracts, the firm captures productivity gains directly. Under outcome-based contracts, the firm captures even more value if the AI tool produces meaningfully better business outcomes for the client. Layer 3, reskill the workforce upward. The freshers and junior engineers who would have been doing routine code generation get retrained to do orchestration, agent development, prompt engineering, governance design, and integration work. Infosys onboarded more than 20,000 freshers in FY 2026. The forward-deployed engineer team, explicitly modeled on the practice popularized by OpenAI, is being scaled to provide on-the-ground technical capability at client sites. Layer 4, build agents instead of building code. The 500-plus agents already built by Infosys teams represent reusable IP that can be deployed at multiple clients. Each agent built is a small piece of permanent productive capacity that doesn't require ongoing labor. The Agentic AI Foundry is the factory for producing these agents at scale. Layer 5, deploy AI internally. Infosys is using Topaz, Devon, Claude Code, Amazon Q Developer, and other AI tools across its own internal functions, including software development, HR, recruitment, sales, and vendor management. This is the eat-your-own-cooking principle. Layer 6, optimize the on-site offshore mix. On-site mix has been declining for years to 22.8% in Q4 FY 2026. The shift from on-site to offshore captures further cost advantages. Layer 7, invest in talent for the future workforce. Infosys Wingspan, the talent transformation platform, provides reskilling at scale. Infosys Springboard provides digital learning for community and pipeline development. The sequential headcount decline of 8,000 in Q4 FY 2026 is the most important leading indicator. It suggests that the labor pyramid is actively contracting at the bottom while the firm is redirecting investment toward higher value roles. Voluntary attrition declining to 12.6% from 14.1% a year earlier confirms that the external job market is also softer, which gives Infosys time to manage the transition without losing critical talent. The end state of the pyramid mutation, if it works. A smaller, more skilled engineering base operating with AI tools at higher productivity per head. A larger middle layer of orchestration specialists, agent developers, integration architects, and forward-deployed engineers. A meaningfully larger top layer of domain experts, vertical specialists, and consulting partners who can sell and own transformation outcomes. An expanded sales and commercial capability reflected in the 14% S&M expense growth. a higher revenue per employee ratio than the historical norm. The end state, if it does not work, margin compression as AI competition forces price reductions on traditional services without commensurate AI revenue growth. Workforce displacement that becomes politically and operationally painful. Loss of competitive position to firms that have built the orchestration layer faster. Conversion into a commodity body shop with declining margins and eroding client trust. The next 8 quarters will be determinative. There are 5 structural asymmetries in Infosys' position that the market is underpricing. Asymmetry 1. The labor cost advantage becomes an AI deployment cost advantage. Indian IT services firms have historically competed on labor arbitrage. The conventional wisdom says AI eliminates this advantage because code generation tools reduce the value of cheap programming hours. But the opposite dynamic is also true. Infosys can afford to deploy AI tools internally at a lower marginal cost than Accenture because the baseline labor cost is lower. When Infosys automates a task that previously required a $25 per hour engineer, the productivity gain is captured at a different margin structure than when Accenture automates a task that required an $80 per hour engineer. The absolute savings per automated task may be smaller, but the percentage margin improvement is comparable, and the firm can redeploy the freed capacity into higher value orchestration work at a lower redeployment cost. The labor cost advantage does not disappear with AI. It transmutes into an AI deployment cost advantage. Asymmetry. 2. The delivery footprint becomes the data advantage. Infosys has 328,000 employees working across 63 countries, with 90% of its top 200 clients on AI initiatives and 4,600 AI projects underway. That is an enormous surface area of organizational contact. Every client engagement generates tacit knowledge about enterprise architecture patterns, failure modes, integration challenges, governance requirements, and workflow bottlenecks. If that knowledge can be captured, structured, and embedded into Topaz Fabric's enterprise twins and agent blueprints, it becomes a compounding data advantage. Each new client deployment makes the platform smarter. Each vertical-specific agent deployment improves the industry blueprint. The breadth of the delivery footprint becomes a moat that pure-play AI firms and boutique consultancies cannot replicate because they lack the institutional contact surface. Asymmetry. 3. The managed services base becomes the AI upsell funnel. Infosys already has long-duration managed services contracts across its client base. These contracts give Infosys continuous access to the client's technology environment, business processes, and operational data. When AI agents become production-ready, the managed services relationship becomes the deployment surface. The firm does not need to sell the client on a new engagement. It needs to upgrade an existing engagement. The switching cost for the client is not changing AI vendors. The switching cost is unwinding an operational dependency that has been building for years. This is why managed services is the annuity in the flywheel. Not because managed services is exciting, but because it provides the institutional surface area on which AI agents can be deployed without a new sales cycle. Asymmetry 4. The ambidextrous organization challenge favors firms that have already survived previous technology transitions. Infosys has navigated the mainframe to client-server transition, the client-server to internet transition, the internet to cloud transition, and the waterfall to agile transition. Each required retraining hundreds of thousands of people, restructuring delivery models, and reimagining commercial frameworks. The institutional muscle for technology transition is already developed. Firms that have never done this, pure-play AI startups, boutique consulting firms, hyperscaler services teams that have always operated inside platform sales cultures, do not have this muscle. They will struggle with the organizational change management required to transform a 300,000-person delivery organization while simultaneously serving clients. Infosys has done versions of this before, not perfectly, but it has survived the process, and survival in technology transitions creates institutional knowledge that is not easily replicated. Asymmetry. 5. The poly-AI orchestration position is a winner-take-most architecture. The firms that successfully establish themselves as the abstraction layer. Above all model providers will capture disproportionate value because the abstraction layer is where switching costs are highest. Once an enterprise's agent deployments are running through Topaz Fabric, with the governance layer, the enterprise twins, the integration architecture, and the MCP/A2A protocol support, switching to a different orchestration platform is not just a software replacement, it is an operational reorganization. The poly-AI position also benefits from the model providers themselves wanting Infosys to succeed, because the alternative for them is either to build their own services arms, expensive, distracting, or to lose the regulated enterprise market entirely, worse. The Dario Amodei quote on the domain expertise gap is the architectural admission that makes this asymmetry visible. The danger is that these asymmetries remain theoretical rather than operational. The market will not pay for structural advantages that do not show up in revenue growth and margin expansion. The next 4 to 8 quarters will be determinative. If AI services revenue continues to accelerate past $1.5 billion and toward $2 billion in annualized run rate, if Topaz Fabric deployments convert from pilots to production at scale, if the managed services base begins to reflect AI agent embedding in measurable revenue per contract, if margins hold or expand despite the pricing compression on traditional services, then the market will reprice Infosys as an AI-era orchestration platform rather than a legacy labor arbitrage services firm. If those things do not happen, the company will continue to trade at a services multiple, and the entire consulting strategy will remain a story rather than an outcome. The distance between story and outcome is exactly where Infosys lives right now. Infosys' consulting strategy is to use AI as the forcing function, consulting as the access layer, cloud and data modernization as the substrate, agentic tooling as the margin defense, and managed transformation as the long-duration revenue engine, all coordinated through the Topaz Fabric Poly-AI orchestration platform and amplified by named partnerships with OpenAI, Anthropic, Cognition, Google Cloud, and AWS, executed across the entire enterprise stack from core banking to physical AI. That is the sentence. Everything else is detail. The 200-plus enterprise AI agents launched with Google Cloud make the direction visible. Network capacity planning means telecom operations. Accounts payable and receivable means finance operations. Manufacturing forecasting means supply chain execution. These are not glamorous front office demos. These are guts of the enterprise workflows. Boring places, expensive places, places where small improvements become recurring savings, places where consulting can become software and software can become services and services can become dependency. The public narrative is that AI will destroy the Indian IT services model. Maybe. But the more subtle possibility is that AI destroys the weak version of the model and strengthens the firms that can move fastest into orchestration, governance, modernization, and outcome-based transformation. Infosys is trying to be one of those firms. There is a dark elegance to the play. If AI reduces the value of raw labor, Infosys uses AI to reduce its own delivery cost. Dev and internal deployment first, then commercialization. If clients fear AI disruption, Infosys sells them a controlled adoption path. The Hexagon framework articulates it. If hyperscalers create platform complexity, Infosys sells integration. Topaz Fabric is the poly-AI abstraction layer. If enterprises drown in pilots, Infosys sells production. Pilots to performance is the 4-word diagnosis. If legacy systems block AI, Infosys sells modernization. The Hertz COBOL migration at 60% lower cost is the proof point. If workforce resistance blocks adoption, Infosys sells workforce transformation, Wingspan plus Springboard plus the talent transformation framework. If boards demand proof, Infosys sells measurable value. Ralph Lauren plus 12% revenue lift, BP plus 95% payment accuracy, the technology major with 50% faster support resolution. If procurement wants vendor consolidation, Infosys sells scale, 328,000 employees across 63 countries. If regulated industries demand governance, Infosys sells the Anthropic Center of Excellence wrapped in industry-specific compliance architecture. If clients want GCCs instead of outsourcing, Infosys helps them build the GCCs and provides managed services on top. If competitors out-execute on individual deals, Infosys out-executes on the platform stack. Topaz plus Cobalt plus Finacle plus Equinox plus Cortex plus Helix plus Meridian plus Wingspan plus Polycloud. Same machine, new wrapper, higher control point. Okay? The danger for Infosys is execution. Always execution. The firm has to prove that AI services do not become just another branding layer over traditional labor resale. It has to prove that Topaz, Agentic Foundry, and partner ecosystems create actual productivity lift, not just sales language. It has to protect margins while training talent, redesigning delivery, and competing against firms with deeper boardroom prestige or stronger platform ownership. The sequential headcount decline of 8,000 in Q4 raises legitimate questions about whether the productivity gains are real or whether the company is simply shedding labor in a soft demand environment. The FY 2027 guidance range of a 1.5 to 3.5% is wide enough to accommodate both optimistic and pessimistic scenarios. The acquisition strategy bears watching. In late March 2026, Infosys Nova Holdings entered a definitive agreement to acquire 100% of Optimum Achieve Holdings, a healthcare digital transformation and consulting company. The company is also transitioning auditors from Deloitte to KPMG, effective for the fiscal year ending March 2028. These are institutional maturation moves, the kind of infrastructure changes a company makes when it is repositioning itself for a different competitive tier. Specific risks worth monitoring. Risk 1. AI deflation outpaces AI demand. If AI tools reduce labor demand at clients faster than new AI-led work expands, Infosys could see revenue compression even as AI services grow. The CFO's commentary about AI deflation being visible in the deal pipeline is the acknowledgement that this risk is real, not theoretical. Risk 2, model providers go direct. If OpenAI, Anthropic, or other model providers decide to build large services teams and bypass integrators, the partnership architecture could erode. The current willingness to partner is itself somewhat fragile and depends on the model providers continuing to see integrator value. Risk 3, hyperscaler services, arms accelerate. AWS, Microsoft, and Google could meaningfully scale their professional services arms to compete more directly with Infosys at the implementation tier. The hyperscalers have cost advantages in cloud-native delivery and tighter integration with their own platforms. Risk 4, GCC growth cannibalizes outsourcing. If enterprise clients increasingly choose to set up their own captive offshore operations rather than outsource, the total addressable market for Indian IT services could plateau. Infosys' response, helping clients set up GCCs as a service offering, is a hedge. But if GCCs scale faster than the GCC services offering does, the net effect could be negative. Risk 5, regulatory and visa risk. H-1B visa policy changes in the U.S. could increase on-site delivery costs or constrain workforce flexibility. The company has stated that the majority of U.S. employees do not require company immigration sponsorship and reaffirmed no anticipated service delivery disruptions. But policy risk remains non-zero. Risk 6, execution risk on the platform architecture. Topaz Fabric is a genuinely complex piece of software. Multi-layer architecture, model abstraction, agent orchestration, governance, integration, MCP/A2A protocol support. Building this well requires sustained engineering investment. If quality slips or capabilities lag the partner ecosystem's evolution, the platform value erodes. Risk 7, client concentration in AI deflation exposed verticals. Top 25 clients are still 34.5% of revenue. If those clients meaningfully cut spending due to AI-driven efficiency gains, the impact would be material. Financial services in particular has acknowledged that AI deflation is showing up in client conversations. Risk 8, macro slowdown. If the broader macro environment deteriorates further, particularly in Europe, where Infosys has been outperforming, discretionary spending could compress. The CFO's commentary on cost optimization engagements as against growth-led transformation programs is the early warning signal. The opportunity is real, but the execution surface is enormous. Every layer of the stack, platform, partnership, pricing, talent, vertical, geography, has to be managed simultaneously. Because the enterprise AI market does not need more people saying AI is important. It needs people who can make AI survive contact with the enterprise. That is a much narrower skill, and a much more profitable one. So the next time someone says Infosys Consulting is trying to move up the value chain, do not stop there. That phrase is too clean, too bloodless. What Infosys is really trying to do is move into the control point where enterprise confusion becomes executable transformation. That is where the budget clears. That is where the client dependence forms. That is where AI stops being a demo and starts becoming a reorganization of work. And that is why Infosys' consulting strategy is not really about consulting. It is about becoming the firm that operationalizes the future after everyone else has finished terrifying the client into buying it. Here is the full ontology compressed into one map. A 45-year-old company founded by 7 engineers with $250 of seed capital from Sudha Murthy, which industrialized the global delivery model and made the entire Indian IT services industry possible. A parent entity supervising a constellation of subsidiaries, EdgeVerve products, Infosys BPM process outsourcing, Infosys consulting advisory, Infosys public services, U.S. government, Infosys Nova acquisitions, Panaya enterprise software automation, WongDoody, creative, Brilliant Basics, digital design, Fluido, Salesforce, Kaleidoscope, product engineering, Stater, mortgage, McCamish, insurance, BPO, Intech, automotive R&D, The Missing Link, cybersecurity, Versant, cloud, and Optimum Achieve, healthcare. A platform stack covering every layer of the enterprise, Topaz, AI, Cobalt, cloud, Finacle, banking, Equinox, commerce, Cortex, customer engagement, Helix, healthcare, Meridian, workplace, Wingspan, talent, Polycloud, multi-cloud, Live Enterprise Suite, integrated transformation, and NIA, legacy AI, a $20.158 billion revenue base with 21% adjusted operating margins, $3.7 billion of free cash flow at 112% net profit conversion, $14.9 billion of large deal TCV at 55% net new, and 1.5 to 3.5% constant currency growth guidance for FY 2027. A vertical mix dominated by financial services at 28%, with 26.3% segment margins, manufacturing at 16%, energy at 13%, retail at 13%, with 30.4% segment margins, the highest in the company, communication at 12%, the fastest growing, high-tech at 8%, and life sciences at 7%. A geographic mix dominated by North America at 55.7% and Europe at 32.6%, the fastest growing region at 11.4% year-on-year reported growth. A client base of 1,965 active accounts, with top 25 concentration at 34.5%, and growing numbers of $50, $100, and $400 million relationships. A workforce of 328,594 people, declining sequentially as productivity gains absorb growth, with 12.6% voluntary attrition and 39.5% women representation. A 5-vendor AI partnership matrix: Google Cloud, Vertex AI, Cognition, Devon, Anthropic, Claude, OpenAI, Codex, AWS, Amazon Q Developer, coordinated through the model-agnostic Topaz Fabric abstraction layer. A 6-pronged Hexagon AI Value Framework targeting a $300 to $400 billion TAM by 2030 with current capture of less than 0.5%. A Project Maximus margin expansion program operating as multiple parallel work streams, delivering approximately 50 basis points of cumulative margin improvement being reinvested into AI, talent, and sales capability. A capital allocation policy returning over 37,500 crore rupees, approximately $4.4 billion, to shareholders for FY 2026 through dividends and buybacks, alongside ongoing acquisitions to fill capability gaps. A research collaboration network with Cambridge, Columbia, and Cornell universities, plus internal research centers, positioning the firm in the frontier AI research conversation rather than just downstream productization. A leadership team led by CEO Salil Parekh since January 2018, 25-year Capgemini veteran, IIT Bombay and Cornell Engineering, CFO Jayesh Sangrajka, and Chairman Nandan Nilekani, co-founder, returned to the chairmanship in 2017 after the Vishal Sikka exit, with Balakrishna DR as Executive Vice President and Global Services Head for AI and Industry Verticals, and Mohammad Rafi Tarafdar, leading Topaz Fabric. A board transitioning auditors from Deloitte to KPMG effective fiscal year 2028, an institutional maturation signal that the company is repositioning itself for a different competitive tier. That is the ontology. If you can hold all of these layers in your head at once, you can read any Infosys press release, any earnings call transcript, any partnership announcement, any acquisition disclosure, and instantly see what is actually happening underneath the public language. You can predict the next move. You can identify the layer where the move is taking place. You can locate the specific commercial mechanism being activated. That is mastery of the system. And that mastery, applied with discipline, is what separates the analyst who actually understands Infosys from the analyst who just repeats what Infosys says about itself.